Hi everyone, and it's Good Friday for those people that celebrate Easter, an important day for Christians around the world. But I thought I'd come out to a spot very close to my house and we'll just see how we go. The sun is streaming in, I can hardly see what I'm doing, but I'll battle on and do my best. I do have my trusty iPen here, so we'll see how we go. Now, a follow-up to a story yesterday, and we were speaking about the meeting with the US House Speaker with the President of Taiwan. What was China's reaction? Well, this is sort of what's happened. Chinese aircraft warships spotted near Taiwan. This is being reported by Deutsche Welle, and they say China's military advances come after Beijing condemned the meeting between the Taiwan president and the US House Speaker. And Chinese anti-submarine helicopter and 3 warships were seen around the island country. It's a training, but the timing is quite sensitive. And what it's up to, we're still studying. That came from Taiwan's defense minister. The aircraft has not taken off from its deck. Taiwan was closely monitoring the Chinese aircraft carrier Shandong, which was spotted on Wednesday and was currently 200 nautical miles off Taiwan's east coast. And the USS Nimitz is also docked about 400 nautical miles east of Taiwan. I actually went on board the USS Nimitz when it was here in Phuket, and I did a show. I can't even remember what the show was. I'll see if I can dig that out and show you one day. But yeah, I was on board and doing a program from the deck of the USS Nimitz. And Taiwan's president said that during the time I'm out of the country, our national security team has been closely monitoring the situation. She said that the face-to-face meeting with the US officials were important for regional peace and called on Beijing to remain calm. I also hope the Chinese side can exercise self-restraint and don't overreact. And the US yesterday called on China to cease its military, diplomatic and economic pressure against Taiwan and instead engage in meaningful dialogue. And from Channel News Asia, China deploys warships near Taiwan after Tsai McCarthy meeting vows firm and forceful response, and 3 additional warships were detected in waters separating the island from mainland China. That came from Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense. An anti-submarine helicopter had also crossed the island's defense identification zone, and China deployed Coast Guard vessels for unusual patrols. And China's response to the McCarthy meeting has so far been on a much lower level, but still left Taiwan on high alert. So basically just a bit more presence in those waters between mainland China and Taiwan. Of course, we'll keep an eye on that story. Now, another follow-up, let's go to this one. This one from, strangely enough, the Jamaica Observer. Not sure why they're reporting it. I'm sure it'll be reported in other places. But the Chinese church members to be deported by Thailand. Now, these were the people that first went to South Korea and then came to Thailand seeking asylum. And it looks like Thailand's now going to turf them out as well. More than 60 self-exiled members of a Chinese Christian church who were detained in Thailand after receiving UN refugee status will be deported by next week. The Deputy National Police Chief, Surachat Hakpan, said representatives of Thailand's Foreign Ministry and the Immigration Bureau were holding talks with the UN Refugee Agency and the US Embassy to discuss the fate of the 63 members of the Shenzhen Holy Reformed Church. Now, they are seeking asylum in the US, hence the reason that the US Embassy was involved. Within the next week, they will definitely be deported. What we don't know is which country they'll be deported to. And the members of the church, also known as the Mayflower Church, were granted refugee status by the UN after their arrival in Thailand last year. And an Immigration Bureau official with knowledge of Wednesday's multi-agency discussions said the Thai authorities would find a way for the church members to be sent to a third country, and the Immigration Bureau will continue to take care of them on humanitarian grounds in the meantime. And that story reported by the JamaicaObserver.com. So here at the headquarters of 5 Star Marine, that's Sean. Thank you very much for their continuing sponsorship of the program. If you'd like to go on a private tour to any of the beautiful islands off Phuket, I can highly recommend 5 Star Marine. As you can see, all the boats are gone. I look like I've missed the boat. There's a link in the description of this video. This is the Good Friday edition of TNT, and now one of those stories you just shake your head thinking, how could somebody be that stupid? And we go to Thai PBS World, and it reports that 6.9 million baht cash found in a house of a Ratchathani district official after his arrest. Look at that. All that cash lying there in the back seat of the car. Oh, whoops, one just went missing. I'm sure something like that actually happened, and Thai anti-corruption officials found 6.9 million baht in cash hidden in a car in the Nonthaburi province, the house of a senior official of Bangkok's Ratchathani district. And the 57-year-old chief of the Ratchathani district office was taken into custody, and he was having an appointment with a businessman, allegedly to receive a 3.2 million baht bribe in exchange for dropping a case in which the businessman was being pursued for about 40 million baht in unpaid taxes. And they found the cash hidden in his wife's Toyota Fortuner, parked in the compound of the house. And yes, that is a dog barking. In fact, the dog's barking at me, saying, "What the hell are you doing there?" So apologies if you can hear that in the background. More officials might be involved in the alleged corruption, as they found a notebook containing a number of names. So we're going to hear more about that case, and really, you think the official would do a bit more to try and hide the bribe. That was reported in Thai PBS World, and the story says that the man's already been transferred from his job, and he's currently free on 400,000 baht bail. Moving on to our next story, good news for Thailand's Koh Kradan, voted the best beach on the World Beach Guide site. So the very first time I came to Thailand back in 2000, I went to Koh Kradan, beautiful island off the coast of Trang. And I had a bit of a problem. I rented a hut. I think it cost about 120 baht, this beach hut overlooking the Andaman Sea. Beautiful. And I was in there. I mean, it's sort of 2-star. And there was a python about 2.5 metres long, just sort of resting in the rafters on the roof. And so I thought I'd better go and speak to reception about this. They didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Thai. And I was going, snake, house, rafters, could you come take the snake away? They were going, no, cannot eat snake, cannot. I think, okay, that wasn't quite what I was saying. Anyway, they did put me into another bungalow for the night. Let's go on with the story. And Koh Kradan in the Andaman Sea off Thailand's southern province of Trang has been voted the best of the top 100 beaches on Earth by the World Beach Guide. It's a website in the UK. And other beaches include Railay Beach in Krabi, was number 9, Freedom Beach in Phuket, which is just a little bit difficult to get to, but worth the visit. It came 18th. Lam Beach on Koh Yai in Phang Nga, and Tanot Beach on Koh Tao in Suratani. Strangely, no beaches in Pattaya are listed there. Let's go have a look at Railay Beach in Krabi. Of course, a beautiful beach and definitely worth a visit. That whole area around there is just quite spectacular. That's Freedom Beach in Phuket. And then we've got Koh Yai, just a magnificent beach that sort of appears and disappears during the tides. And then the beach there at Koh Tao. So those beaches featuring in the world's best beaches. Good to see one at least in Phuket and a few off the coast in Phang Nga Bay making their way into the list. We go to BangkokPost.com now. Weed conundrum polarises society ahead of election. This is the first of a couple of stories having a bit of a look at the situation with cannabis and the forthcoming election in Thailand. And the Bangkok Post story says that despite the different stances political parties take when it comes to the subject of cannabis, with most objecting to its recreational use and another potential shift in the plant's legal status, many sellers remain unconcerned. The legal status of cannabis frequently described as being an unregulated vacuum. This vacuum is due to the inability of the legislature to pass a marijuana code bill. It was called the Cannabis Bill. It was voted down 6 times before, Parliament was eventually dissolved. The Pumjai Thai leader Anatin Charnvirakul, he's also the public health minister, said recently the party would continue to push its original policy of using cannabis for medicinal purposes as well as an economic stimulus. They'll have to do better than getting 1.5 to 2% of the vote, which is the way they've been polling recently. The executive director of the Democrats say his party's only supporting its use for medicinal purposes, and the chairman of the Per-Thai Party's Policy and Economic Committee said it must be regulated and only used for medicinal purposes. Move Forward Party say it can only be regulated for medicinal purposes. I think you're getting the idea here. All the parties, which are probably the parties that are not only going to get the primary votes, but also form a government, are dead against anything other than medicinal use. Although you can obviously see that medicinal use is very likely to be continued after the election. And Tud, a 35-year-old proprietor of Lazy Cannabis Cookies and Brownies, is among a group of vendors advocating for stricter regulations. He says, "I agree with more restrictions, but not if they make recreational use entirely illegal." Now, the way things are going, that could be on the cards. Let's see what other people say. Tanakorn Prajan, a cannabis farmer and seller in his 30s, says he does not foresee a ban being imposed on the recreational use of marijuana. The industry's gone too far to be turned back now, he says. Mr. Tanakorn said many big investors, both Thai and foreign, are pouring money into this business, and that the lighting system can cost millions of baht. However, stricter rules for vendors, such as mandating they obtain authorised licences, will make it more difficult for small businesses, and the effect of cannabis on people's mental and physical health has become a bone of contention between supporters of free trade and proponents of more regulation. Meanwhile, a clear consensus remains elusive, even among those in the medical profession. And the story's got quite a few more quotes and some arguments for and against the medicinal uses of marijuana. That story in the Bangkok Post. We go to another story now, and this one covered in the Japan Times. Thailand's promised cannabis bonanza disappoints as politicians trade blame. Apart from the legislative limbo, the benefits of a new cash crop for farmers, trumpeted by the health minister, have failed to materialise. And a CEO and founder of Taratera, which operates cannabis farms and shops, places the blame for the disappointment many farmers feel on illegal imports that began when the initial boom led to domestic supplies running out. A deluge of marijuana smuggled in from abroad has swamped Thailand, driving down wholesale prices and hurting growers, according to the industry. And the health minister, Anatin Charnvirakul, says it's illegal. If they're importing illegally, we will have to use law enforcement. And a 37-year-old grower who invested a chunk of his life savings to jump into the industry said he's seen his returns dwindle. And he says the smuggled stuff is damaging us. In Bangkok's Khao San Road, tourist-haunt stalls selling cannabis line the street, and no one seems to care that imported marijuana is officially illegal. Some shops highlight their foreign supplies. "Cannabis made in the US," one shop's sign proclaimed. And Pornchai Padmindra of the Thai Industrial Hemp Trade Association says people are struggling. He said things are becoming difficult, and that covered in the Japan Times. So a few different perspectives there covered by the Bangkok Post story and the Japan Times there. And I mean, it's fairly clear that after the election there's going to be some recriminalisation of recreational use of cannabis. And that's going to have a big effect on all those retail stores lining the streets of the tourist zones. For the growers, well, less so, because there's still, I think, going to be a lot of demand for the medicinal use, and that industry, I'm sure, will probably flourish in the future. Let's go to our next story now, and this covered in Associated Press. Fighting in Myanmar sends thousands fleeing to Thailand, and more than 5,000 people have fled from eastern Myanmar into Thailand in recent days as fighting between Myanmar's army and armed resistance groups has intensified in the border area. At least 5,428 civilians, including more than 800 children, crossed the border from Myanmar's Maiwadi district into Thailand's Tak province. And Myanmar's ethnic minorities have been fighting for greater autonomy for decades, but armed conflict in the country escalated sharply after Myanmar's army ousted the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi back in February 2021. Widespread opposition to the takeover shifted to army resistance in many parts of the country. Well, we're certainly going to see that situation continuing, people from Myanmar flooding across the Thai border up there in the northwest of Thailand, and those refugee camps will continue to fill up. The police will be arresting people, deporting them. They'll just find a route, just a couple of 100 metres down from the bridge, and they'll just walk across through the forest into Thailand. It's a 2,500 kilometre long border between Thailand and Myanmar, and you would call it, at the very least, a leaky border. And there are between 1 and 3 million Burmese people here in Thailand, some of them registered to work and some of them not, and that situation will just continue. So we can only hope that the political situation in Myanmar will stabilise some situation. If they do hold elections, at least it might bring some stability. That's about it for our Good Friday program. Hopefully you are a bit more up to date with some of the things happening around Thailand in the lead up to the election, and of course that ongoing story with China sabre rattling following the meeting between the president of Taiwan and the third most powerful politician and other members of the House in California on Wednesday. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live program. I'm doing that by myself. So that's about an hour with you and me. Any of your questions, any of your comments, criticisms, whatever. It's an open house. Everybody is welcome to join in. So that's tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thai time. I invite you to come and join me. And then on Sunday, we've got our latest edition of Grumpy Old Men with me and Steve. But from this very, very pretty part of the area that I live, hopefully you're going to have a nice Friday, a good Easter coming up, and I look forward to seeing you next time.